Welcome back to the third episode in which I swatch out the entire range of the QoR watercolors. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the oranges. And I put oranges in air quotes because these are definitely more reds, and there's only really two colors that are technically what I would classify as orange, but it's just a general description. The episode name's a general description of the colors we're going to be covering rather than their technical color grouping name. So these two are definitely the more orange kind of red. But in this episode, we are going to be taking a look at Indian Yellow, that's made with PY154, PY150 and PR206, Cadmium Orange PO20, Transparent Pyrrole Orange PO71, Cadmium Red Light PR108 and Pyrrole Red Light, that's made with PR255. Let's start us off with taking a look at the Indian Yellow, and this is a beautiful color and it changes as it gets lighter. It starts off with this rich golden orangey color, and then it becomes more orangey here, and then you have yellow all the way through from the mid-tone to the palest of the colors. So it's quite a versatile color. You can have different colors in one tube depending on how strong you want to use the colors. It is classified as semi-transparent, and I'll definitely agree with that. You definitely see a lot of deposit here, maybe arguably semi-opaque depending on how you see transparency and opacity. It is classified as staining, and I would say it's at least semi-staining. It's terrible for doing glazes with. Certainly on this Bockingford sheet you can definitely see this square, this bit is lighter than the middle bit, so that's not ideal if you want to layer with Indian Yellow. In terms of color mixes, it's a pretty high tinting strength color and you get strong mixes here. I really love this corally orangey red color that is happening here. It is made with PY154, which is the benzimidazolone yellow H3G, the PY150, the nickel azo yellow, and the PR206, the quinacridone burnt scarlet. In terms of dispersion, we have quite a wide dispersion for just one tiny drop, really, and then you have a load of haloing happening here, and I am very confident that should this be even wider, it will go much wider as well. So this is definitely a very high flowing color. And then we have the cadmium orange. This is very intense bright orange, but with a cadmium feel to it. By that I mean it's got a little bit of chalkiness to it that cadmium colors do have, especially compared to the next color, the transparent Pyrrole Orange. But it's, of the cadmium oranges I've seen, it's one of the brightest for sure, and it does good gradating here, and you get really intense orange up here, and then you get some granulation happening in the middle when you use it at its middle tone. I would say from about here to here. Let's see in the close-up. Can you see from about here to here you get nice granulation happening? So if you like a slight granulation to your orange, then this could be a good option for you. It is classified as semi-opaque, and definitely agree with that. This is definitely a semi-opaque color. You can see a lot of deposits on the black line. It is classified as staining, and I would agree with that. And then it's actually a pretty decent, certainly better than Indian Yellow on the glazing here. You do just about see the darker patch here, but you'd have to kind of squint to see it, certainly in real life. So it's a pretty good glazer. It's a quite a high tinting strength one, so you get really nice, bright, strong mixes. Let's compare that with Indian Yellow, and you can see that this is a much higher tinting strength than the Indian Yellow. You get this gorgeous, gorgeous muted bluey color that has a warmth to it. This will be really good if you want to paint some moody landscapes. Mix the cadmium orange with the phthalo blue, which is not really a combination that I certainly would think would work, but you get this beautiful tone. I can see this like spread over the sky to create this dark, almost stormy kind of sky. And the coral pink you get from mixing it with Queen Rose is absolutely gorgeous, even better than the one with Indian Yellow. And you get this bright, very healthy sunny orange happening when you mix it with the Radiant. So I would say that the cadmium orange, hazard a guess, because I've only done 3 color mixes, but it's probably a good mother color and definitely a color to do more mixing with to see what you get. Then we have, so Ep.3 is the cadmium orange, so that's pretty simple. And in terms of dispersion, you get quite a bit of dispersion on the main mass tone, not quite as much as Indian Yellow, but then you get really strong haloing happening. Again, the same with Indian Yellow. If I make this even wider, it will go pretty far, I'm pretty sure. And then we have the transparent Pyrrole Orange, and this is a very, very intense orange. It's very serious about how orange it is. Let's compare it with the cadmium orange. Even though the cadmium orange is very strong on its own, next to transparent Pyrrole Orange, it's like, okay, yeah, this guy is like way more intense about being orange. It's not quite a blood orange, but it's got the feel of blood orange, if that makes sense. And it looks like the skin of the blood orange is usually tends to be a lot more intense than a normal orange. It's that kind of color. It's gorgeous. It's a reddy orange color, whereas I would say the cadmium orange is more of a mid orange, and it does amazing job doing gradation, so you're going to have a lot of fun with it. A little bit of cauliflowering happening here and here, so you do need to watch out for how much water you put onto this paint though. It is classified as transparent, and I would absolutely agree with that. It's very transparent. It is classified as staining, and again, I would agree with that. It's not quite as good at the glazing as the cadmium orange, so you definitely see the line happening here. In terms of color mixes, it's not quite as strong as the cadmium orange, but it's still pretty intense. Let's bring back the cadmium orange for comparison. So you definitely get a stronger mixes here, but in terms of with Aurelian, you still get very intense colors. But I would argue that if you're mixing it with other colors, then these two are prettier, whereas these two are more muted. If you go for an autumnal look though, I would say that these colors are perfect for an autumnal themed painting as well. It is made with P071, which is Pyrrole Orange. And in terms of the dispersion, again, pretty good dispersion on the mass tone. That's very big, considering it's just one drop of paint and just spreads that far, and it maintains that color. And then a lot of haloing, probably not as, it probably wouldn't go quite as fast as the cadmium orange, because that's probably going to go very far. The haloing isn't as strong as the cadmium orange did. Then we have the cadmium red light, and this is a very bright red. I'm just realizing under the filming lights. It's still the more orangier, the warmer kind of red, but it's definitely a red, not an orange. Again, the name for the videos are just for guidelines only, so that you know roughly where to look for your colors when you come back to try and look for a certain color. It is very good at the gradating. It's one of the very few colors where I actually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different levels of value, which when I do test for the gradating, I'm trying to make 5 separate different stages, And because of how wild QoR colors are, it's quite difficult to get that. So you get quite good control with the Cadmium Red Light. So if you are not sure about QoR because they go quite wild, and you want a little bit more control, then this might be a good place for you to start on the range with and get used to how QoR paints work, because they do work very differently to other colors. In terms of transparency, it is classified as semi-opaque, and I would agree with that. It is classified as semi-staining, and I would say it's quite staining. In terms of layering, it's not great. I can definitely see this bit lighter than the middle bit here. In terms of color mixes, beautiful color mixes. I love the orange and this pink that the Cadmium Red Light creates. I have to say with the phthalo blue yellow shade, I'm still a big fan of the Cadmium Orange for that, but it's still a pretty decent mixing color. It is made with PR108, which is cadmium red. And in terms of dispersion, you get some really wild texture happening here, which I think is beautiful. So you see this little, there's almost like a faint circle happening. Hold on a second. You see here, you see this small circle happening right in the middle. That shows the size of a drop that I initially put on there. It's one of the few colors that actually show that. So it's quite good for you to be able to see that. And then you get wild textures happening all around here. And then you get haloing that's probably going to go pretty far. But in terms of dispersion, I think this color is super interesting in just how rich in texture and in this wild feeling this paint has in spreading over water. And then finally, we have the Pyrrole Red Light. And this, again, is a warm red, almost like an orangey red. This is definitely the most orangey kind of red, whereas this is a little bit more to the cooler side. It is a Pyrrole Red Light. And I would say if you're looking for a warm red, this is a lovely color to go for. It does pretty well on the gradation. However, it does suffer from cauliflowering. So if you are going to do big, huge gradation with it, then just be mindful of how much water you're putting onto the paper and you should be fine with it. It is classified as semi-opaque, and yes, I would agree with that. It's classified as semi-staining, and I don't agree with that because I would argue that is very heavy staining. Obviously, staining levels differ depending on what paper you use. This is a Buckingford cold press 300 GSM, so you might find different on the paper that you use, but certainly for Buckingford, it's very heavily staining. You're not going to get that you're not going to get that paint coming off your paper again. It is thankfully a good glazer. Because of that, there's not much left happening, so you get nice clear glazes. It is again a high tinting strength color, so you get really nice strong mixes, and again you get that moody stormy sky color happening here that we got with the Cadmium Orange. With the Queen Rose, it doesn't make that much difference because the two colors are pretty similar, and then you get this strong, very textural orange. It is made with PR255, which is the Pyrrole Scarlet, and in terms of dispersion, not quite as wild as the Cadmium Red Light, but you do get a lot of texture happening throughout here. I would say, is it granulating? Is it flocculation? Not quite sure on that one. What do you think? Would you call, there's definitely texture happening here, but maybe this is what people call flocculation rather than granulation. Do let me know in the comments below if you think this is granulation or a flocculation. The mass tone spreads quite a bit, and then you get a very light haloing happening. If you fancy trying these amazing QoR colors, but you're not ready to put the financial commitment into buying, relatively expensive colors, then I have the dot card for you. This month's dot card is the companion dot card to this series, and this one is the warm colors of QoR, and I picked 8 of what I think are the best colors that QoR has in their warm color range that doesn't double up too much with the previous colors. If you'd like to receive this and save loads of money on not having to buy 8 tubes to try them, then all you have to do is go over to patreon.com/Oto Kano and sign up to the appropriate tiers. So that's it for the oranges, air quote. There's only really 2 oranges that are true oranges from the QoR range. That's the Cadmium Orange and the transparent Pyrrole Orange. These 2 are reds, and this is more towards the yellow. Out of this, quite rare that I pick a cadmium color because I'm a big fan of the transparent colors. But the Cadmium Orange, I have to say, is my favorite from this episode just because of the colors it can mix. I think these are beautiful, clear color mixes, but has a lot of interest in them. So I would definitely be testing more on what this color can do with other colors. You also get quite strong color mixes with the Pyrrole Red Light, but it's not, for me, quite as interesting. Maybe for some people it will, because the orange gives a lot of texture. So yeah, do let me know in the comments down below which color piques your interest the most and which color this video changed your mind over. Again, a huge thank you to QoR for sending me these paints. They're just so much fun to paint with and getting to know. If you are interested in trying these paints, I've left links down below, down here, on where you can buy them through Amazon, Blick and Jackson, and hopefully one of those places are where you like to get your paints. If you can use those links, that would be super helpful for me, because it's a way for you to financially support this channel without you having to pay extra. You get the people who you buy it from pay us instead, and it doesn't cost you a penny extra. You still only get charged the same amount as you normally would buying these paints. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!